So this one, okay, this is just a quick double check with the councillor. So, Sharon, I should have made mention when we were discussing local water done well. The intention is, and this will be part of this, but we will bring a paper to you on December the 18th, which pretty much shapes up the big bits that we think we've drawn out of the conversations around the various workshops in LTP that need to inform the consultation document, those big items that we need to take to the community and need to talk about. A couple of things aren't in this one at the moment right now, because the museums one, we will resolve that issue. So the museums and community halls, because there's a little bit of connection between the two. There's a paper coming to council around community halls on December the 18th. That'd be one of the pieces of the puzzle, because with community halls, we're having to take the papers to the community board starting next week to talk about options around divesting of community halls or not earthquake strengthening or earthquake strengthening. The council was pretty clear in its guidance the other day. It said, come back to us, staff recommendation, take it to the community boards, tell us what the community boards say, bring that back to council. So we'll bring that one back to council on December the 18th. That's probably going to be the last piece of the puzzle about the big item. So starting off, the things that are going to have to be informed in this consultation document, and the timelines for that, Saskia and the team will be writing it over the holidays because it needs to be with the auditors on the 10th of Jan. We need to then bring that draft forward. What goes to the auditors, we have to then get it into a reasonable format that we can bring it, put it in front of councillors at the end of January with a view to getting that approved, and then we would finalise its presentation on the collateral support over the period of February with the aim of consulting in March. So there's quite a lot to work through now, and we're sort of, this is just a doubles check, but we will need a formal decision of council in December. So this is just to see if we're on the right track. So local water done well, we do have to consult. We will have it in the consultation document. Nigel was right. The information is going to be pretty light because all we have at this point in time, it's actually a 143-page document from Morrison Lowe and the supporting presentation. And there's quite a bit of information in the DIA website as well, which we've used, which will help inform the various options and inform the advantages and disadvantages and would meet the requirement of the Act. So that one does have to be in the consultation document. It doesn't mean that you can't consult at a later time, because you can, but for this LTP, it will need to be in there. Albeit that the status quo advice something else, the information is just like that. I guess what we're saying, and you don't have to confirm this until December the 18th, but we will need to put a proposition in that LTP, and then we will have to say that is. So at the moment, it probably has to be a CCO, because the reality is we won't survive if we did this. Well, the status quo is going to be risky for us. So, and the government and everyone else is pushing councils into a CCO. You're probably better off in a regional CCO. That's what the Morrison Lowe report is. 76% of the region would be better off if we were in a regional CCO. You don't have to answer that one now, but you will need to give us some guidance in December. Our recommendation would be a regional CCO, because that's the best for the region. And the more councils we get on board, that's the best outcome for the region as well. So that one there, noting though, it'll probably exclude stormwater. So we, in forming a CCO, what it will probably give them the two waters, because stormwater is a big cost if you're in the city. It's not such a big cost, it's a bit more manageable if you're in the province. So it's probably going to exclude stormwater.
But that won't make any difference in a regional CCO, because there will still be towns in there that will have to.
Yes, but then the way you would ring fence that is then, the money that they would draw from Central Otago's with whatever rural communities wouldn't fund. Just like, if you can ring fence that, you can ring fence the revenue to pay for that particular geographical bit of dirt. in time you might harmonise, but I would say, because it was quite contentious during the Free Waters, the issue around stormwater.
But given that stormwater, I would say, especially in Otago, the majority of the stormwater comes from only one place, off the roading network.
Yeah,
So actually,
that's
there's
right.
logic for a start.
That's right.
It's
Keep
very-
it linked to road.
It should go back to a full cost eroding, and that was when we did the Three Waters, one of the logic was about discharging and saying stormwater is a roading issue anyway, so by discharging you're doing the right thing because it actually relates to roads. Apart from the odd community here where we have a requirement because of groundwater protection zones to put stormwater off houses into the stormwater network, most of it now these days goes to soak pits on site. So yeah.
That's right. We would just have to be able to be clear in our water services development plan, because it does have to cover what you're doing with stormwater, but it doesn't have to be part of a multi-council, you know, how you treat it. You could retain it, because that cost is, 1 to 2% as opposed to the big cost of the other two waters. So anyway, that will be in the consultation document. What the proposition this council will be putting forward is to be determined. Our recommendation would be a CCO of some description, and our preference would be at this point in time, a regional council CCO. We just need more councils to agree to that as well. We'll know by the end of December, or middle of December, what other councils are going to do. Volumetric charging, you'll recall this conversation. This will go to the community. Our proposition, or the preferred proposition that we'd be seeking guidance on, or a formal decision in December, is $2.40.
That's a huge increase.
And remembering this offset from the UAC, from the uniform annual charge as well, so there is an offset.
So the annual charge will come back
Yeah.
Yeah.
To what?
to what?
I don't know what the numbers are, but there was, and it was talked about at length, there will be an offset.
The
But
figures were the same, weren't they?
yeah,
The balance.
all I say right now is, in ways that might be important for the next 2 to 3 years, but beyond 2028, to be financially sustainable,
A universal charge? Yeah.
the volumetric charging, and because this is a clear direction. I think there was commentary last week about the water services entities will have to do volumetric charging, which is a problem if you don't have meters. We're lucky in that regard.
Yeah, that's very important. Can you have, on that, where you have your different examples, you could have, like a small townhouse that uses X amount per year, currently pays this, will pay this under the $2.40. And then an example of someone on like a 2,000 hectare, and then the horticulture people.
There was a
Do
table
we have
in-
examples and
that table in the presentation too.
Because the other thing I did, it gave like little people in a granny flat, it gave them the ability to actually save on their water bill because they can be quite frugal with their water and like they are with
And
their
they
power.
probably pay less without being more frugal, because
Yeah.
the charge will come down, they don't use a lot of water anyway.
No, we,
I know what
I mean, that sort of information will be there, because you have to compare it to, you have to present options. If we say it's 240, then that will show through in the budget, but then you want to say, well, what's the offset to that? What would it mean under another option?
So that's under our, as we are now, not under a CCO.
That's us. That's us now owning water for the next few years.
And the status quo is 60 cents at the moment.
Yeah.
So the lift of $1.80, whatever it is, $2.80, is actually going to be in our 10-year long-term budgeting on rules we don't know yet.
It'll be in the LTP for how many years we intend to own water. If we are to hand water off to a water services entity, then it becomes they're the ones who would set that at their first year, but we would carry this through until we no longer have it.
So my mind tells me that if I was in charge of water entity, I'll go, well, this is the way these guys do that costing, so it won't go down, because we'll stick with the status quo for 3 years till we fumble till we find out a number.
Commerce Commission will be overseeing.
So do we know what our true cost of producing that water is as of today? Is 60 cents there, or is it
A lot
like?
more than 60 cents.
No, well, unless something's changed markedly from when we did Three Waters when it was about 10, because all the bulk of the cost was actually in the infrastructure and the stuff that the treatment cost of water was the very, very small part. I think in those days we went at about 10 or 15 cents, and we deliberately pushed it up to make sure that the price was enough to be a disincentive to waste it. And that's why we put meters in the first place, because people were pouring water down the street. The key thing that would happen here with this is while 240 seems a huge increase, we're paying $7.56 for your uniform charge for water now across the district. And I'm using in my place as a good example. That's 400 cubic meters a year roughly. That works out to be about $1,000 of water uniform charge plus at 60 cents a cube. You turn that around and go divide that by $2.40, and that gives me 416 cubic meters of water. So as long as the uniform charge portion is equivalent to 16 cubes at $2.40, which is about $50, then it's neutral. And if it's not, then there's a story to be worked through as to why we're changing and why, because if it doesn't come out even, then there's another reason.
Yeah, there will be an offset in the uniform charge. Now, I don't remember the exact amount that is, but, you know, volumetric charge water cost is going one way.
Yeah, but it's got to reflect.
So
the true price.
I don't know if it can be neutral, I think, because it has to be.
Well, only if you can say, but the cost have gone up to this, so therefore the base figure isn't 1,000, it's 1,200. You've got to make that story. Otherwise, someone like me would just say, well, actually, you know, if you charge me more than the $1,000 total,
Well, that's what we need to cover.
Yeah.
The people
Explain the theory.
much water, which is a lot of our older people, will benefit from this. The people that have large sections and enormous gardens or are watering a commercial premises will be
The
punished.
problem I've got with that is that the infrastructure cost, it's like the electricity charge.
Nothing.
You've got to be connected to the infrastructure. You've got to pay your share of that.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, those people that don't use much water, they can. That they don't is not the issue. They still have to be paying an equal charge to the network, because the power companies don't care about how much you use. So there's an element both ways here that I think we need to be really careful about. They're saying, well, you know, is it right to I guess we're going back to a subsidy effectively.
I thought Judy had crunched the numbers based on the infrastructure cost
Yeah, and
was going to be covered by the uniform charge, and then the treatment cost, which included the escalation in electricity.
If that's the case, something markedly has changed from when we distributed through waters.
Yeah.
Something's huge. That's not enough to push it by 400%.
this is still, you may recall from the presentations, this is still below what others are charging our neighbours. So we
Don't care.
haven't lifted it since 2012, and we have volumetric charging, and it shows volumetric charging, so you can get that price right, you conserve water.
But we have lifted it. We've lifted that uniform charge. It's gone up significantly.
It's,
It has, but
The uniform charge has gone up,
Yeah.
not the volumetric
Yeah.
charge.
but that's just the kilter. But you know, you're looking at a 400% change,
Yeah,
and on the face of it, you go, something's not right here, because knowing the history of how we did it,
yeah.
that most of the cost, like 80-90% of the cost, was actually in the sunk infrastructure, but therefore the network charge. Now, what I'm hearing is something's changed about that. If it's now going to be all in the volume,
Yeah, what
something markedly changed, and it's someone told me a 8 years, 10 years ago.
we consume about 500 litres per person per day in this district, which is actually really quite high.
how? We're the sort of dry climate.
That is the rate of consumption. We
But it's not the mini total. It means it's about 890 litres.
No, it was on that last report that came through. We are quite high in our daily consumption rate per person. And even the cities where I came, which was appalling, was like 440 litres. Volumetric charging is the way to control water consumption, and as Julie said, it's also a way to slow down on your capital plan.
Yeah.
Because if you don't consume water as fast, you don't consume your materials and everything else. It's a proven method, and you know, the conversation that happened on the day, it seemed to land around the 240 for all the reasons that were discussed over there.
But if we're using 500 litres a day and that's the average per person, then I'd expect that the going to analyse some key residential users would support that.
Numbers on the slide of
Volumetric charging, Julie.
how much of a percent use the vast majority of our water, and it was
Yeah.
overall.
It was 20% use 80% of the water, isn't that right?
So what it is half the median is 225 cubes. What we actually identified is if we put it up to $2.40 a cubic metre, half the people will be better off or the same. Because the proportion of people who use large amounts is quite a small amount. And what we're hoping to provide is, at the moment, it doesn't make economic sense for some of the people who are using very large amounts of water for things like irrigation to look at doing a bore or something like that, because it's still cheaper to get your water on the council supply, treated water from the council supply rather than untreated water from a bore. So this will help improve the cost, the economics for those people that are looking at alternative sources rather than us trying to reticulate for these large volumes of water, particularly from a lot of growth here. And $2.40 is offset by a reduction to the UAC, and the UAC reduction is quite significant.
Down to $50? Down to $50?
It was not necessarily $50, but
Can you please, given that you don't have to make a decision on this now, Julie, can you share those slides that you had last time? Just send them out to all of us so we can have a look through.
So they are in the, I've actually just opened them, they're in the elected members folder under long-term plan. Do you want to open them up?
No, it's not these ones, different from these.
Yeah, so it was the, I think so.
Just can't see the examples. Examples of them.
There was a whole table of like a small property with, yeah.
That's not the one.
Hey Sarah, that's the ones that Paul presented on the general rates. There was separate slides for Julie's 3 waters.
I'm looking at the rating and revenue ones.
It was one of the workshops in
26th of September. 3 waters.
Yeah. Done so many.
What's the deal?
That's right. The table was covered, it showed different exactly properties of those policy irrigation. I cannot do it.
Oh yeah, 11 September 1. 3 waters 2025 LTP.
It's, it doesn't have the bottom.
Just easy just to get it and redistribute it, because I wasn't at the meeting, so I'm starting from behind and I can catch up. But I'm really interested to see and understand what has changed so markedly from when we digitalised 3 waters that said we had to artificially push up the per metre rate to 60 cents, because it actually worked out back then to be 10 or 15 cents if you just took out the infrastructure cost. And we did that to try and make that a
universal annual charge at the same time too.
well, we actually increased, well, yeah, we dropped it.
Yeah.
And took a gamble about how much we get back from the 60 cents a cube. Because the risk is that if you get your volumetric charging rate wrong, this is what was put to us from the start, but if you get it wrong and people then say, oh, at 240, I'm not going to use it, and you don't get enough to cover your base costs, you're in the shit. And what I'm hearing now is that actually things have tipped this on its head, and that we're guaranteed at 240 we can cover our base costs with the uniform charge. Don't get it.
It's not maybe that way anymore, and this is following what's happening around the country. You don't, it's not based on how much your base cost is not really what's driving the big cost of the 3 waters. What's driving the big cost of the 3 waters is the capacity upgrades that we need to do. And quantity of water through by the water treatment plant, pump it, get it through water treatment plants, distribute it, and the pipe size upgrades that go ahead and extensions to the network.
So that's not connected to consumption, that's connected to infrastructure.
It is, yeah.
So just to me, it doesn't make sense that we should charge that at the consumption end. It should be charged at the infrastructure end, because you look at what happens in the model for electricity, that's where the capacity charge goes in at the fixed cost. And I guess we're getting to make a call about that, and that's what this is about. But to me, it just seems arse about face. And the risk is that you drive down the amount of water used sufficiently enough that actually you don't get enough to cover those costs, and then you're in the shit.
Had some quite pertinent horror stories from those figures.
It's a good data on this. That's, even the New Zealand Infrastructure Commission has got a report on it as well. So I'm just trying to find it. I think it's saved into that folder and it was in October.
That workshop 5, it's not that one? Maybe uniform maintenance charge.
It's a full sort of charges.
Is it under, long-term plan?
Did we not, when we first originally put meters in the old days, have a volumetric charge up to 1 cubic metre, and anything above 1 cubic metre got charged at a different rate?
No,
No.
I've never done that.
We talk about that in rentals.
Your volumetric charges in that.
And if not, why don't we look at that now? The first litre, first cubic metre of, is it one rate, anything above a certain rate?
Workshop.
Do you want me to share this with you?
Slide
I sent this to you, Sarah, then you can.
Yes, please, do, great.
We took a snapshot of the cost of the
Workshop.
workshop.
We start on the,
Sure.
35.
As soon as next group, that's not the same script.
Oh, yeah.
We'll be like them, so it's got 66. But it's just escalated, which is estimated.
But page 35 of the
It's
presentation,
$2.40.
talks about volumetric charging.
That's what it costs to go. Yeah, it's not. What's that at that base?
And so from 35 onwards, was all degree of volumetric charging. That was.
Yes, so 8% of the connections are using 43% of the water.
Yeah. 18.
And so I have
think so.
that showed the comparison for 3 different.
And here.
And
And so at $2.40, the volume annual charge would drop to $2.35. Based on today's budget.
$2.35, $7.65, $7.56. So I just worked out that taking my property at using 400 cubes a year, $7.56 plus the water at 60 cents, works out to be $1,000 a year. Which when you divide that by $2.40 is 414 cubic meters of water at $2.40.
So you'd be
Right,
you're above that average.
I think you used a large landholder in Plaza Moorings, wasn't it? as an
Thank
example?
God I'm not using town, thank God I'm not using town water to irrigate my 3,000 square meters.
Was it? Probably very similar to yours. Might be one of your neighbours, 3,000 square metres, using 650 cubic metres a year.
He hasn't got much lawn then.
They are some of your neighbours.
I think that's supposed to be.
But their cost will go up.
How close to my neighbours, because they might be using irrigation water as well, so it's a bad example. It's in Loburn Terrace, it will be.
You're using irrigation.
Properties that we're using in different groups. And
Yeah.
groups.
But in Loburn Terrace, there are a number of properties that get water that they're irrigating that they're not paying for.
$100 a year, under the 240.
So they. That's the dollars.
Which for some people, that they won't get.
Yeah. So, using that was based on using, oh no, that was 325.
Yeah, well, that's what you said, mine at 400 is $1,000 a year all up,
And so
and I'm not irrigating any grass with that.
This is the thing.
if you were using 650 cubic metres a year, at $2 a million, you pay $1,795 a year. But we've modeled that on the basis that people will reduce their water consumption 20%, so we need to lift what we're charging more for the UFC to cover that reduction of volumes.
You get frugal, we charge more.
Yeah, I just,
Good strategy.
I can't get my head past the fact that something has changed significantly from when we did this. It's now turned on its head from where it was.
I think the whole
Don't get it.
world's changed with regards to water
Yeah.
and the cost and I mean, I can tell you without a word of a lie, we'll all be paying $4,000 by 2034 for water. It doesn't matter what our volumetric charge is going to be, we'll be paying $4,000 a connection because that's where we're going for water. And so, this is a step change, but this is pointing in the direction of travel.
Now,
Here we go. Okay. And this is all the ones on volumetric charging from that presentation.
and part of this, Neil, is if you can see that slide just there, that huge jump that happened last year in the UOC. Like we just haven't, we've been increasing the UOC year on year, but we haven't ever changed the baseline volumetric charge, and we're actually really out of whack with the whole rest of the country now who do this.
What does that mean?
Well,
Doesn't mean they're right.
doesn't mean that we're right either though.
No, but I
But
guess
the big difference here, we're this, one of the driest areas of the country, there's not, it's got to be with a valid comparison to someone else that's got the similar type of stuff that we've got.
Right.
It's just that all the costs are going up and electricity costs are going up. The cost of building more capacity into treatment membranes, filters, particularly, and I had to push a lot of projects out in the long-term plan to keep you within the under 300 million. And a lot of the projects that got pushed out, and my team and I do have an element of concern, is that we have pushed out a lot of the growth related projects to the tail end of that 10-year period. And we can only do that if we reduce our water consumption. And the only real way to reduce water consumption is by charging them more for it, because people have stopped thinking about what it costs because they get a bill and it's $50 and they're not too bothered about it.
But I guess the issue is, what does it actually cost us? Going forward in the next process, the way my simple mind works is, what does it cost us? Growth should be met by development contributions to a degree plus what we build into it, and I understand that. But Ranford is a classic example. Our treatment plant and volumetric charge, we extend its life for a long time. But are we better off front loading costs now for a new entity to take over and say, well, we don't know? Or are we pushing it forward now?
People who are going to be paid. So, you know, even if it's targeted, it's more than a multi-council, it's still going to be our rate of paid for this for a long time. And it costs, you know, so if we go out now and we do a whole lot of pipe upgrades around Bromwell to make them bigger, to get more water around, because some people are using obscene amounts of water, to be honest, then we have to fund that from debt next year. You're going to hit your debt limits really fast and going to be paying interest. So we might recover that through VCs over the next 10, 15 years, but it's going to take a while for those to come in. And my 276 million, $67 million program for 10 years is going to turn into another $400 million program.
And this was part of the case for James.
So I'd like to see a copy of the 2016 report when we did the Three Waters digitalisation. I want to compare that to where we're getting to now to understand those differences, because I'm not convinced that the drivers are right.
Look, I think you are actually wrong in that one. Yeah, I think the drivers are quite clear, but this cost is only going one way, and actually the water costs. You look at the electrical cost now to run our networks and all that sort of stuff. The next year, it'll tell you they are just going absolutely one way.
But it's not 400%. Sorry, in 8 years, it's not 400%.
I think it probably
I
is
think
that.
it'd be over 400%
Really?
in that
Yeah.
case.
I look at what some of our costs have gone
So-
in
so
space.
Why
and
haven't we
cost
been doing
of
it every year?
infrastructure.
So if you go back.
What doesn't
to that
make sense?
So we've been putting up
slide
the
that
uniform
shows the
charge.
Oh, there's one.
We haven't covered the
Uniform charge.
And what, we weren't doing the, well, don't forget, my logic, my understanding is that industrial harmonisation, when we did it in 2016, we artificially pushed up the per metre rate to make it worthwhile doing, to make sure there's some incentive not to use too much. Now, what you're telling me is that ever since then, we have only ever touched the uniform charge and haven't done the same to make sure the mix is right all that time.
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, basically just on last year alone, the cost doubled, didn't it?
And that was a fair bit of it, was not?
No, but it
Even-
was just everything. We got it. So next year it'll do another jump, because once the Cromwell water treatment plant comes online, the costs are going to be higher.
Yeah. I agree,
we do one of these, we get this huge jump that has to be funded.
But all those costs are network costs. They're not producing water costs. They're the infrastructure you have to fund all the time. So that's the base cost. That's the network charge. It's not the volumetric charge.
Yeah.
So my logic says it's the uniform charge that should be going through the roof. But
No, but we're capped for uniform and.
well, here goes, that's what's causing it, then that's needs to be fixed.
No, but it's capped by law.
Well, yeah, I know.
This is something that the community should. So
And the uniform annual charge too, remember, hits everyone in the district. The volume charge hits people who are paying, using water. So a large chunk of the district doesn't draw water.
Yeah.
And so the UAC picks them up.
No, the water UAC is the only thing that's affecting that. It's not affecting those that aren't connected to the scheme. They don't pay it.
No, it's not, but you also need to look at people's ability to pay things. And at the moment, we have a scheme whereby people on low incomes are paying the same effectively as people on high incomes with no ability to control their bills like they can control their power bills or their insurance.
But the whole reason for distributisation in the first place of the three waters was that we would say, if you had a connection to water and you used the same as Joe Bloggs next door, then you paid the same because it cost the same.
Yep.
So at the moment, the little old lady who's not using bugger all water isn't paying for that water.
No, but she's paying effectively the same as you.
For the
using
network charge, because to be part of the scheme, that's what you've got to pay. If you want to join the scheme, you've got to pay the same charge as everybody else.
And it'll still be, everybody pays the same as for being part of the scheme.
Yeah, but the way that's
It'll just be those people who are high, because Julie said there's a residential property using, what was it, 4,000 cubic metres a year of water?
4,000.
How do you even use that much water?
Where we go to the garden.
probably go bloody leaks.
look at our GIS, the greenest property in Central. Okay.
Yeah.
That's
Building
why,
problem.
but that's why we looked at landfill in the early days of having volumetric charge up to 1,000 litres a day, it's one unit. And then after that, hammer it.
Yeah, so, in that particular workshop, Julie covered a lot of ground. Just go back a bit.
So where can I find that presentation?
It's under elected members. And if you look for, I think it's for 18 October
And the recording's on the web.
and go to page 35 on the slide. So you'll see this is where our electricity costs are gone. So we're 42% increase in inflation since you set the you set the volumetric charge back in 2010. That's just inflation costs gone up 42%.
Yeah, that's not 400%.
No, but you whack in everything else, the cost of materials, the cost of construction, so on and so on. This is, we talked about this at length in that workshop, the benefits of reduced water use, what that leads to. And then the benefits of high volumetric charge. Places a more realistic value on cost on treating and delivering water to households, right up front.
You're not going to convince me because it's not, you're not.
It's going to be an option.
So I'd like to, so I still want to see that report from when we did the industrialised three waters. I'd like that report, please. Because that at least gives me the base to compare it with and understand it all. Because if I don't understand it, I can't convince other people it's the right thing to do. And I'm happy to be proven wrong, but I'm sorry, it's such a huge quantum shift. It just doesn't make any sense.
It is a completely different way of thinking about it.
Yeah.
And
Well, no,
get that 2016 report and circulate it with everybody, please. And
Yes.
then
But that last one, high UAC, low volumetric charges benefits large water users. Which is sort of counter to try on the consumption to say,
So you're saying that volumetric charge has been capped by regulation?
no, the UAC is capped by regulation. 30%.
So when this goes to the Commerce Commission to regulate, that's where it's going to end up, I think, that's what I heard.
Our water service development plan will go to the Commerce
Yeah,
Commission.
but in terms of the charging will be regulated through that system. And I'm thinking it's going to be done on a very similar basis to what the electricity one's done.
Yeah.
And it'll probably get changed.
We had got, and then I was in the report when we were looking at the Shannon Farm connection about what the actual charges, there is. It is in there, what the different charges are on a number of councils around New Zealand, for volumetric charges. I think, so last week I was told by a webinar that local government finance agency were at the Commerce Commission. Well, it's not going to be in legislation that volumetric charges are required in order to get the higher debt leverage that the CCOs are going to be provided, that they will have to have a volumetric charging in order for the LGFA to agree to those higher ratios. So there will be a lot more councils there's going to be a lot more of that stuff. And
We've got in every water scheme, haven't we? We've got in every water scheme.
we're in the South Island, there's only
No,
a
it's-
thousand universally across every connection. Some councils have them on commercial properties. Christchurch has them now, but they've got a really complex charging mechanism and it's not on properties.
So I guess, do we get any benefits as a result because we're way ahead of the game?
We understand water consumption a whole lot better than a lot of councils do, and where it goes and how it gets used. And that helps us when we're applying for a resource consents. We got a 30% reduction when the who's installed. What we think now is that because the 60 cents is without kilter, people aren't really considering it as a behaviour driver. And so we expect we will see another reduction, probably of around 20%, we're assuming, when we bring this in, which then enables us to delay the
I've got no problems charging the volumetric a rate of that, but is the 260 a measure of where our cost of water is today, or is it the cost of what the 18 months down the road is today? And the one we had a big discussion because it was right there, and there's been 2 mayors sacked as a result of water meter charges. I mean, Leper got rolled out and Tim came in because of water. Is that when we had a discussion before we put meters in Ranford, and of course a lot of trouble in Ranford, was the first unit, a house was entitled to one unit, was 1,000 cubic meters, 1,000 litres, and they had a rate for the house at that literage, and anything above that paid 3 times. It's going to be $3 a litre. So the house had the ability to have one unit, and if they used that, they didn't use that, didn't matter. They had a unit, and then after the one unit, you triggered a unit per day, you pay $2.60 for every unit after.
we did have the 4 meters put across the district. Some towns had meters and things in place. It wasn't, everybody wasn't the same, so Ranford might have been one of those, it wasn't.
We went to golf course Ranford, water in the greens, we had farmers irrigating K-line out of the town water supply.
So we need to address that. Can we park that? Neil, are you happy that we've got those reports being located and sent to everyone?
Yeah.
And the presentation's there in the elected members folder.
I found that. It's not easy to find, but I got that.
Page 35 onwards, just to deal with water, volumetric charging.
Cool. Thanks, Julie, for making yourself available.
Isn't that 8% of that in one town any different than others?
We've got towns.
Yeah, report.
Towns are in this presentation, so
Yeah, but is there any one town that be 8%, like is it Cromwell or is it, and is there any one that's got a habitual?
43% of the water is used by 8%, and then 60 people use, but
Yeah.
it was the town, but the town consumption rates are in there.
Right. Just to
And so it's no surprise, Cromwell, Alexandra,
close it,
Blythe,
Yeah.
Bannockburn.
who's pushing the computer,
Next one.
close it.
We do have all the detail, but I don't have it off the top of my head.
So it's all right, we can, if
It
you
is in
can
the
send it
presentation.
out, it's in the presentation, and if we can source that 2016 and then just understand the breakdown of that, that'd be great, Julie, and then we can make
Any
the decision on the
questions
18th.
To Julie.
Pass it on.
At the call.
Close it.
Yeah, so that's, when we say, that's what we took out of the workshop, so that'll be in there as consultation. Next slide. So, okay, the Molyneux Turf grant, so that's provide the grant, come back on funding options and cost the rate paid, but that was the discussion that came out of Vincent and Manitoto.
Yeah, so what do they say there, as an example, prefer grant, provide a grant account, that's from the rate part.
From council as a whole,
The person,
from council as a whole,
Rather than,
not.
Right, not
Good like your turf, because you're paying for a whole, when I was starting out, one.
what was the one before Manitoba Turf? Was it Molyneux Turf?
Molyneux.
So despite all the work we're doing, try and not have everybody having one of the same,
They're all getting one the same.
we're gonna have one.
Yeah, two.
36 kilometres away from,
Yes.
So the Molyneux Turf one, so that's that, Molyneux Turf Incorporated, so they've made themselves, this,
Yeah.
both of these are community driven.
Yeah.
Not council driven, and this one is, and the Manitoto ones are a little bit different because they are both on Ministry of Education land. And the school are going to utilise them 5 days a week during school term, as in outside the classroom thing, so. I think we need to go out to the communities with it because communities have driven it as a project and they've got a lot of effort in, so.
absolutely, I just want to make sure I got my head around it saying, well,
But yes,
Yeah,
yes,
'cause I think-
like we've now got a pool in every town,
Yeah,
a turf in
yeah,
every
yeah.
town, but at the end of the day, if
But that's what the
community want it,
community
they want to pay for it, then
If
that's.
they pay for it, that's fine. The minute, and the other argument to that, and the minute they've been driven by the other people in a community board at Ranfurly, is that all of a sudden you talk about cost of living and everything going and travelling to Cromwell, taking kids up there 3 nights a week. Just because you live in a far remote rural community doesn't mean to say you should be disadvantaged. And the real risk of actually everyone slashing and burning is the Teviots and the Minneotatos and the Middlemarches and the Hydes and Dunedin City Council or the others get their services cut off and get 1 cent. You're centralising everything. And the only way they can have all that stuff is to pay for it. And if they are going to pay for it, fill your boots.
Miller's Flat would also like it too.
But you know, the other side of the ledger,
South's could have had one, chose not to.
Now, I mean, on the 18th,
Do the shit together.
you can tell us if you, which, under the proposition, but currently we're saying we've got a question mark, provide grant, so that's the basis for the assumption. But if you say not to provide grant, then that'll be the juxtaposition, it'll be council have been asked, but we won't, but if you wanted it, this is what it would cost the district.
yeah.
But at the moment, the proposition
And
is,
it's a bit like Neil's debate, is it 400% the cost of water? Is it a true reflection? Is it a true reflection that what's it going to be? And that's what we've got to consult on. And if they want it fully, but
I've got the document.
next slide, please.
I wasn't there.
And others, fees and charges will be covered off at the 11th halls, community halls, 18th of December. It will be going to community boards before then. Obviously from the community boards, we'll be seeking community boards, thoughts on that and your recommendations. We will annotate that into the report that goes to council, but council's, the staff's recommendations will carry through to council, but it will also say what the community board said. And then councillors will have to have that debate. And then let us know because we will have to weave that in over the holidays. Shared service, Ranfurly, that'll be part of the whole conversation.
is there an appetite, and I brought this up, David, to take the services away from Ranfurly completely?
What services?
Shared service in Ranfurly, like the council chambers.
Well, we think we need to provide services and Ranfurly, with staff and all that sort of stuff. So we were just, the thinking was to relocate to the railway station.
But I'm saying, I brought it up today, but do we need one there?
It's a long way to go for people who will.
Turf there, but, pay your rates. You live in turf there, but not be able to pay your rates.
Well, you'd argue that's not at the
I
bank.
think that's a bad example of paying your rates.
Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah.
Take that in fact.
Well, that's just a question, because we're looking at all these other things with the whole.
There is a significant level of service discussion, which would be appropriate for an LTP, but maybe not this one.
Yeah, and I guess they're all saying is like you take the banks, they moved away, people used to banking, they went away, and you could have a part-time service, but just a question that, well, it's sort of like you walk around eggshells, and sometimes crunching and can actually get the result you're looking for.
Is museums going to be far enough down the track to have cover off what's happening in the Cromwell, with the Cromwell Museum? Is that going to be?
So the museum one, that's to degree, part of the thing with the museums is part of it's tied into the halls, because there's some recommendations around the real estate that we own in Clyde, for instance, and it is tied, like, up front with you, a staff recommendation would be to divest council of the Blythe Street hall. And you might sell it for $1, or you might try and get the value out of it, because that's freehold land, and so that one is worth a bit more than a whole lot of other halls we've got in the district.
Who's that? Which one?
Five, they're district county changes.
Yeah.
Right. And so But what actually came out of the council resolution with regards to museums was essentially the status quo, but funded by council.
Yeah.
And so that's pretty much what's going to be carried through into the LTP one would think. But it's just the question mark around where there are some buildings that perhaps may be surplus to council needs, just resolving that one.
So will we be far enough down the track with what's going to happen in the Cromwell Memorial Hall and Museum for that meeting to
Well,
have a meaningful consultation document?
well, that one's actually been resolved because the council resolution was the Cromwell Museum is going obviously to the new build. And then that the old building.
Yeah.
We can, there's not a rush. We might need some storage space and we might need
Council
some,
chambers bigger.
yeah, and we might need some spillover space for staff too.
Yeah.
So that one, we're not as rushed in that.
No, I'm more thinking about the taking the new museum, kitting it out, fitting it out, all that.
That's part of David's work. That's locked and loaded. The museum is going in one shape or form across to the new one.
We need to catch up Martin Anderson, bring him in.
Yeah.
Yeah, and module, so we should have a conversation perhaps. Make sure I don't say the wrong thing.
So that decision was pretty clear.
That's what I thought, yeah,
It is
that's what,
going
yeah.
to the new site.
Yeah.
So, Dylan, sorry. Becky.
I guess the one caution that is, I would suggest, and that's a conversation with Sally and Sarah as the portfolio leads, that when we have this conversation about Pacific Utility and December, where we'll be asking you, are we putting the question to the community or not? On license checks, we should be asking. Well, if the problem with all isn't, well, what happens to us is how to, what we can do. Well, not how, we don't have to, it's 3,000, but what is because the community fund will not. So that's the question we'll talk about,
A community member has contacted me this week and asked about what the intention is for storage in relation to the museums, and that whatever happens, that museums should be, I guess, the storage should not, the facilities shouldn't be different for one ward other than the other. So if we are looking at sending the museum to the new building in Cromwell, there needs to be its own storage in that site as opposed to a commercial building in the mall being used for storage.
Yeah, I think on storage, I think it would be an absolute waste of space with a new facility to have storage here, because we want to try and maximise the footprint to try and get revenue out of it. And so there are cheaper alternatives to storage, like air conditioned containers and all that sort of stuff that we will definitely explore. And it might be that it's a shared resource around all museums, that we plonk it on council land somewhere. And because that's one that has to be resolved, but I'm not sure we're going to be in the game to provide storage for every museum across the district, because we actually wanted to rationalise museums and we weren't very good.
Oh, agreed. I'm just saying that is, there's a feeling from the community that they said, you know, you have to be fair across the museum sector.
And that's the problem that we have with every sector. We all need our own pool. We all need our own museum. We all need our own museum storage. We all need our own turf. We don't want to pay any more rates. At some point, those two things do not fit together in any way, shape or form. And
A commercial, I mean, interim, yes,
Yeah,
but long term, we cannot be.
no, that's right. And it would only be using, like when I talked about the old museum site, that's something that we own, that we could utilise as opposed to leasing.
I had an idea, like when we're looking at all the buildings, the Roxburgh squash court put on the list of things, but it's on, not council land, on reserve land. So it's not easy for us to bowl that building over and try and sell the land. So could we, for example, use that building as a museum storage? Because we already own it, it's already empty, it's been gifted back to us. And it would make much more sense than having stuff sitting in the Cromwell Mall.
Yeah.
Was it any other slides?
That's finished.
So I guess this was just the key themes that had come out during the workshops, which we thought needed to be actually consulted on. So, I mean, now's the opportunity for yourselves to have a think about, is there other things? I mean, we're going to have to consult on a few things, but these were the big ones where you were going to go out and seek people's opinion.
Where are we at with from the town centre.
So that,
Oh, one, yeah, part of the city, yeah, so, okay, so that's been picked up because, yeah, that's,
the question in the sense, it probably is a little bit of stuff
yeah,
and then have a think about it in time for 2027.
because it's almost like an unconsult
Yeah,
on what we said we're gonna do and peel it back
yeah.
to be something else.
So there might be some statements around.
Yeah, yeah, and that's the important thing, because we put the money in.
And that might just be an informing as opposed to actually tell us what you think on that one.
Sorry, I wasn't
Does
listening.
the Rocks report need to go on this list?
So it will,
Just see that.
Okay.
because first of all, we have to get a resolution from the community board. Then council has to probably agree to take it.
What if we say no? What if we say no, we don't come?
Thanks, but no.
It's a,
Make
It's
a
quite
mock,
a nice award
it's
winning.
a, it's an award winning pool with.
it would make a
really
mockery of the
good
resolution we made if we said no.
No. And so then
Let's have a
that might be, I don't
All
know,
that pantomime.
that might not be a proposition, but that might just be a statement of fact. And it's going to have this impact on rates.
Right, okay.
And that's, such a thing.
Yeah.
Someone query, raise?
Hey, thank you, everybody. That's been some really good direction, a wee bit more for us to come back on, and as picked up during the course of the conversation, still a few decisions for council to give us, but this has been helpful for me to start drafting up some content, so I'm not spending all of Christmas writing the CD. So thanks, everybody.
Thanks, yeah,
And Christmas Day.
and I guess
In
that's,
Boxing Day.
that will be the highlights I think for this table, is that we will have a large number of managers working through Christmas and or coming back from their family holidays early to complete this work in time for our dear friend the audit.
Yeah, that's.
Is it
Sorry.
actually going to be back?
Absolutely.
It's on the
What's
10th
that?
of January.
It's a good question.
In all honesty, is audit going to be back?
They will be, because
Yep.
government will be back by the 4th of January in Wellington.
Yeah, we need all our amps to them by the 4th of January, and they are working. So yes, they will be wanting a pretty good draft of the CD on the 10th of January. As Peter has said, it just needs to be a pretty good draft. We will still obviously be bringing it to you for formal adoption to go to audit into January. So if there's something there that you change your mind on and you're taking it out, that's fine. What we don't want to be doing into January is adding extra consultation items in. So we're cool to take stuff out, but if we add stuff in, that just might extend out our audit, and then we won't get to public consultation at our ideal time frame. So still opportunity for you guys to make decisions all around the stuff.
Good. Oh, thank you.
Be good. Finish. No.
Finished, done, right, let's jump to the karakia from.
Oh, yeah, I haven't delegated that yet, but I should, David, you've got your, but I'll do it today, but
Oh,
and practically on Friday, you're standing in for me, aren't you?
In anticipation.
Just in case, okay, no. Kia hora te marina, kia whakapapa pōnami tu moana, kia hui rahi mā tātou i te rangi nei aroha aku, aroha mai tātou i tātou kāta huye tāri kia. Good.
Thanks so much, team. Great day. I can't wait to see you.